Call the Planning Commission for the City of Wheat Ridge for October 18th, 2012 to session, please. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ann Brinkman.
Present.
Alan Buttonham.
Present.
Monica Duran.
Here.
Tracy Gildner.
Here.
Dick Matthews.
Here.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Steve Timms.
Here.
Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move to approve the order of the agenda.
I second.
Call for a vote, please.
Approved 7-1.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 6, 2012 meeting.
I second.
Any discussion on that? Call for a vote, please. Oh, can we reset the voting, please? Thank you. Call for a vote.
I think that was from the last one. I think we need to vote again.
Yeah. We'll call for a vote again, please, on the approval of the minutes.
Approved 6-2. Let's see. 6-2.
Those are abstentions.
Two abstentions. Okay.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is a time for any person to speak on any topic not appearing on the agenda. So I'll just take a show of hands. Is anyone here for anything other than the case on 42nd Avenue that wants to address the Planning Commission? Okay, seeing none. That sounds good. So we do have one item tonight on the public hearings, just for the sake of the folks on watching this and also the folks in the audience. How we'll conduct this hearing tonight is staff will present to the Planning Commission the staff report, a summary of the staff report. The commission members then will have an opportunity to ask staff questions, followed by the applicant will have a chance to address the commission with any other comments or additions they would like. Then followed by the Planning Commission members will ask the applicant any questions. And then there'll be an opportunity for the public to speak either in favor or against this application. And if the members of the public would address their comments to the planning commissioners, we'll certainly see if we can respond to those as well. After that, we will close the public hearing. Planning commissioners have a chance for internal discussion, and then followed by a vote. And then this gets referred on to City Council, who has the final say in this application. So, and then if anyone would, please, if you have a cell phone, just turn that to silence or turn that off so there won't be disruptions during the ceremony. We do have one case tonight, case number WZ-12-08, an application filed by Matthew Rock for approval of a zone change from agricultural 1 to mixed-use neighborhood for property located at 12,600 West 42nd Avenue. And before staff begins, I think Commissioner Gildner has a comment for the commission.
I think that knowing the Rocks, as long as I've known, I need to pull myself out of this because I would be swayed towards their way. So I think I need to be.
You're asking for a recusal?
Yes.
So Commissioner Gildner is asking for a recusal. Any discussion or questions on this particular issue? We do have to vote on this particular issue, so I will call for a motion and then a vote to recuse, not Commissioner Gildner.
I make a motion that Commissioner Gildner can recuse herself for this case.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote then. A yes is a affirmative vote of recusal. A no is a vote against the recusal.
All in favor, six in favor, and Commissioner Matthews voting no.
So Commissioner Gilner, if you just want to have a seat in the lobby then during that time. I would come back. Thank you. This time then, we'll go ahead and have staff make a presentation, please.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Lauren Michalak, planner with the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department, tonight presenting case number WZ1208, a request for approval of a zone change from A1 to mixed-use neighborhood, MUN. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation. The property is within the City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met, and therefore Planning Commission does have jurisdiction to hear this case. If we could get the lights turned down a little bit out here. Thank you. Let's start with an aerial of the neighborhood. The property, subject property here is outlined in blue, sort of in the center of the screen. It's located in the northwest quadrant of the city. North is to the top of the screen, Youngfield Street and Interstate 70. You can see a little bit to the left here, to the west of the property. To the south, you're looking at Clear Creek and the Greenbelt Trail. And 42nd Avenue is the street we're located on. It dead ends on the east side at Zenon Street, which extends to the north off the screen up to 44th. The parcel is about 1.1 acres in size. It's a trapezoid in shape. The longer western property line is about 200 feet. The eastern shortest property line is about half that at 110 feet. And the width of that frontage along 42nd Avenue is about 300 feet. We've got a zoning map next. And as I mentioned, the property is zoned agricultural 1 or A1, and that's denoted by that lighter green color. Light green is also to the east. This parcel here to the east is the Prospect Recreation and Park District. That's their administration and maintenance facility. To the west, also zoned A1, are two parcels with single-family homes. The dark pink color at the corner further to the west is C1. That stands for Commercial 1, sort of our standard commercial zone district. And then on the north side of the street, that light pink color, NC, stands for Neighborhood Commercial. That's the modern log homes, office, and showroom. And then the orange color, RC, is Restricted Commercial. The center of the block this is the Jefferson County Head Start preschool facility. And then on the corner, also zoned that restricted commercial, is a 3-unit, 1-story commercial building, mostly office. And lastly, the darker green color in the north, to the north on the upper right corner is Agricultural 2. That's another ag district. Most of what you're seeing are single-family homes, with the exception of this property immediately north of the commercial, which is a dog kennel with outdoor pens and runs, and that's permitted by special use. So a variety of zone districts, a variety of land uses in this area. As you can see, the subject lot is vacant, the only vacant lot in this area. I'm going to take a couple of pictures. It's a really hard site to shoot photographs of because it is a pretty big property. So we're looking east right now on West 42nd. You can see in the foreground this is an accessory structure and mailbox associated with one of those single-family homes. You can barely see the informal driveway access to the subject site. On your left-hand side, the school bus associated with Head Start, and then that office building. Going a little further down 42nd, still looking to the east. Now you can see more of the subject site, which, as I mentioned, is vacant. The entrance to that parks maintenance facility, and then again the office building. Flipping around, looking to the west, now the subject site is on the left-hand side of the screen. And then one last image, I think. This is from Zenon Street, so you can see where the road sort of curves a little bit and heads north. And most of these trees, I should point out, they're not on the subject property. They're part of the Greenbelt. So they are, for the most part, behind that rear property line. And you can barely see, I'm going to flip back one picture. It's hard to see the relationship of the subject property, those single-family homes. You can barely see what is a fence right now that's separating those two properties. That's the best I could do. What I did grab, as I mentioned, it's just a really hard site to take pictures of. This is a bird's eye view that we borrowed from Google. So it's upside down. North is now in the bottom of the screen, but what you're getting a better view of is Tabor Lake, the Greenbelt Trail, the Clear Creek, and then the vacant parcel that's the subject of this case, the 2 single-family homes, some more commercial uses towards Youngfield, and then again the commercial uses on the north side of 42nd. As we saw in the zoning map, the property is currently zoned agriculturally, and the applicant is requesting to rezone to mixed-use neighborhood. It's MUN. It's our lowest intensity mixed-use zone district out of the 4 that we have. Under the A1 zoning, right now the only permitted use is really a single-family home and then some agricultural functions. And under the proposed MUN zoning, there's still an opportunity to develop the site with a single-family home or other residential uses, but there are expanded use opportunities that would include limited commercial uses or mixed use, such as a live-work situation. Briefly, this slide is just reviewing some of the development standards that would apply with MUN. Under the current A1 standard, there's really no architectural standards. We don't have any architectural standards in the city for single-family homes. And under MUN, there are strict architectural controls which require high-quality materials, transparency, variation. If a residential use is incorporated into future development under MUN, then the existing height maximum of 35 feet applies. That's the height maximum for any residential use in the city. If a future development did not include residential, then the height maximum would be the citywide standard of 50 feet. And I should point out, because we know there's adjacent residential uses, we have built into that mixed-use zoning code what we call residential transitions. So if a building was to be that tall, or if we were to have commercial uses, there's enhanced landscape buffering that's required, and any story above 2 stories would have to step back, so creating more distance from those residential uses that exist. I should also mention that if there was to be future development under the mixed-use neighborhood, we use the site plan review process. So staff can work with an applicant to make sure all these standards that I've mentioned are being met and that development is appropriate as far as site, landscaping, and building design. So that would be the next step if the zoning was approved. As far as process, all zone change requests require a neighborhood meeting prior to making application. That meeting was held in March, and there were 8 folks in attendance. Another staff planner was present, but the meeting minutes were included in the packet, and there was discussion about what MUN means and what sort of the proposed and permitted uses are. In addition, all zone change requests are referred to our utility districts and service agencies. As the Commission is aware, there's no requirement for a specific proposal or site plan, and so without that, we had no concerns or comments on the rezoning. One of several criteria that we use to evaluate zone change requests, primary among them really, is consistency with the comprehensive plan and other plans that have been adopted by the city. And staff does believe that the proposed mixed-use neighborhood zoning is appropriate and consistent with those goals and policies in our adopted plans. This image that we're looking at right now is an excerpt that's showing the coral color is the boundary for the I-70 Kipling urban renewal area. And the property is within that boundary. It's outlined. You can barely see it on the big screen, but it's outlined here in red, just in the corner. The renewal plan and the city's comprehensive plan both recognize the need to improve underutilized sites, and staff feels that the MUN zoning, maybe a little more so than the agricultural zoning, would help to achieve that goal. Our next image is from the city's comprehensive plan, specifically from the structure map. And the commissioners will recall that this map is really created as a strategic guidance. It's not intended and was not intended to be a land or a parcel-based land use map. So again, I've outlined the subject parcel in red. This brown color is intended to identify what we call neighborhood buffer areas. The yellow is recognizes what is primarily a neighborhood The green is for parks. I'm not sure why the school was denoted as green. That's parks and open space. But again, as I mentioned, it's not a parcel-based land use map. I think the real takeaway from this map and from the comprehensive plan both recognize that there are properties and parts of the city that are inevitably going to have to serve as that transition area between what is more commercial and what is more residential. The comprehensive plan, calls for a better mix of uses in those transitional areas, and staff believes that based on the location of the subject property, and especially based on the really immense variety of land uses in this street, that the site is really well suited to be a transitional site, and that function is best done under the mixed-use neighborhood zoning. It may be that the property develops as a single-family home, even under MUN, but that hasn't happened up till now, and quite possibly because of the mix of uses in the area, and the MUN zoning would ultimately allow that flexibility to have a mixed uses on the property. Excuse me. Staff has ultimately concluded that the zone change request meets the criteria. An extensive analysis was included in your staff report, but I'll just summarize those conclusions. As I mentioned, staff feels that the MUN zoning is supported by adopted plans, the urban renewal plan, and the comprehensive plan. Given the mix of uses in the area and the required residential transitions and architectural controls that are built into that mixed-use zoning, we find that the mixed-use neighborhood is compatible with the surrounding areas. We further conclude that the zone change would not detrimentally affect the public welfare. And finally, the site has been really underutilized. It's never been developed, and there have been no viable development proposals up to this point. So we've concluded that the zone change to mixed use may increase the possibility of future development. For those reasons, we're recommending approval. And that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that presentation. We'll now take questions to staff from the commissioners, starting with Commissioner Ohm. Any questions for staff?
Yes. Thank you, Lauren. The question I have is, since there's an existing residential use, kind of to the north there's some existing residences, and this is going to be a mixed-use neighborhood, which clearly allows residential use. Has the city or the applicant considered a possible pedestrian bicycle access to that Clear Creek Trail, which could really, the Clear Creek Trail is really kind of an amenity. And considering that the subject site is basically dead-ended at the bottom of that Xenon Street, that could really be a possibility.
It's not something that we've talked about at this point. I'm sure it's something that we could look into further once we had a development proposal and a site plan. I know that the proximity to the trail is something that has appealed to the applicant. It's just hasn't spurred a site plan yet that's showing that connectivity. Yeah, it's a good question.
Commissioner Duran, any questions? Okay. Commissioner Brinkman?
I have a couple. Is this property, I'm assuming, abutting any floodplain?
That's a great question. Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know that I ever pulled that map up when I was preparing the staff report.
Okay, because Public Works said that they would review any development, any drainage with any future development, but I'm interested in floodplain. And I know that the floodplain just got updated last year. And I honestly couldn't find my floodplain documentation. So that's my first question. Second question, there's a whole bunch of dirt in the middle there that looks like things are parked. And when I went by, I didn't see anything parked, possibly because the sign scared them off with the Planning Commission sign. But are you aware, I'll also ask the owner, but are you aware of what's making all the...
I'm not aware of what's making those marks at this time. I know we've worked with the applicant to have a clear understanding that at this point there's no uses permitted on the property without a primary structure or use. So the last few times that I've been out to the site as well, I haven't seen anything out there, but probably a good question for the owner.
And then one last question. I noticed if you're looking at the aqua outline, it's set back a bit. I'm assuming that's because that land that is sitting next to the street is for street improvements?
Exactly, yep. It's not uncommon that the red line, I should have explained, is the official right-of-way line, so that coincides with the front property lines of all those parcels that abut the street. And that undeveloped portion of right-of-way, so between the aqua line and the edge of the pavement, is undeveloped right-of-way, and you'll notice that the properties on the north side of the street, those were developed within the last 10 years, and when they developed, they were required to install curb, gutter, and sidewalk. It happens to coincide with the red line. It's likely that a future development, particularly if it included any sort of commercial use, would have to do the same, would have to construct that curb and gutter. And so you'd eventually probably see a curb and gutter at the edge of the pavement, and then the right-of-way would probably be landscaped.
Okay, and then I do have one more question. What type of street is this? What type of street is 42nd Avenue categorized as?
42nd and Xenon are both classified as local streets.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Matthews, any questions?
Yeah, one question that may dovetail into some of the previous questions is the bank going down from that lot down into Clear Creek is pretty steep, isn't it? That lot is probably a good 20 feet higher than Clear Creek.
Yeah,
Which-
I believe so. Yep.
Which would kind of answer the floodplain question.
That it may not get
Yeah.
to the level of the subject property. There is a grade change. I just haven't looked at those the floodplain maps in a while, so I'm not certain.
Yeah, when I was doing my due diligence, I had to use the bike path over there, and it actually would appear to be kind of an uncomfortable walk up from the bank of that to that. So I don't know what potential is there. If this property is developed, will the utilities be undergrounded?
The mixed use code does either request or require undergrounding of utilities. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Because when I look along there, the striking part of those pictures was those utility lines.
Right.
And if it were developed, would it solve that problem?
It's something that we would certainly look at. We haven't discussed it at this point. In the couple of other, as you know, the mixed use zoning is fairly new, and we haven't had a lot of completely new development under the mixed use. The one project that we have had, they did underground the utilities. But you're correct, you can sort of even see the shadow lines of all of these utility poles, 3 just across the frontage of the subject lot.
Yeah, that would definitely improve the neighborhood. And I didn't see it in the chart that you gave us, but it sticks in my mind that there is a 100-foot rule if there is mixed use within 100 foot of a residential. Can you refresh my memory on that rule?
I can. I believe, I know the 100-foot rule, any portion of a building, of any building within 100 feet of a residential use may be no taller than 4 stories. Is that possibly the one that you're thinking of?
Is that the rule?
Mm-hmm. So it's a height limit no matter what the uses are when you're proximal to single family.
Yeah. And since this was in the Urban Renewal Authority, the charter height restrictions would be removed on this property, wouldn't it?
I know the Wadsworth area was exempted, but I'm not sure on which other areas of the city. For example, the 38th Urban Renewal area was not exempted from those height and density caps. But the proximity to single-family homes, I think, will create a cap. And I'm sorry, let me add on to that. So the mixed-use neighborhood does not get exempted from those height caps. So that 35 and 50 are hard caps in MUN. It's only in MUC or MUC Interstate or MUC TOD where you can extend beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Testing me on my mixed use.
Commissioner Weaver, any questions for staff? Commissioner Buckner?
Just one quick question. The property to the east, I believe you said it was a city park facility?
Prospect Recreation and Park District is the district that maintains parks in unincorporated Jefferson County. So similar to how we had looked at, for example, the city's maintenance facility up at Parfet, this is their maintenance facility. So it's kind of a, we'd probably classify it as sort of a heavy commercial. They store their fleet vehicles there, all of their maintenance tools, a bunch of picnic tables were out there when I was nearby. It's mostly fenced off. They do have a small admin building. but that it's separate from the city, but they just happen to exist in Wheat Ridge.
Do you know whether or not they operate, regular business hours, or are they running trucks in and out of there
I
at
do
irregular hours?
Frequency of the traffic in and out of there. I know they have somebody in this smaller building on the front, I believe is their office building, and I think someone is there with some amount of frequency, but I don't know what the traffic looks like in and out.
And was there any, because of that sort of, heavy vehicle use nearby and the, warehouse and commercial directly to the north, was there any discussion about mixed-use commercial as opposed to mixed-use neighborhood?
There was never really any consideration. Two reasons. First, with the proximity of the single-family homes, and particularly the neighborhood to the north, and the way the structure plan looks, MUN, the lower intensity district, seemed appropriate. And the second reason is that in MUN, a detached single-family traditional home is permitted. In MUC, it's not. In MUC, we go really more towards the live, work, or higher intensity, so we wanted to maintain the option to have your single-family home with MUN.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed the live work was an option that the applicant was exploring in the neighborhood meeting notes, so that's why I thought about the MUC. Okay, thanks. That's all my questions.
I just have a couple of questions, please. Could you go back to the zoning map slide, please? That's great. So the RC parcels to the north, do you know approximately when those were rezoned?
Rezoned?
Yeah, to RC.
No, I don't. Not within the last 10 years.
But you did reference that the construction was fairly recent, right?
Correct, yep.
And then do you have any idea on how long the Parks and Recreation District has occupied that particular site to the east? I mean, have they been there a while, or are they fairly new there? Do you know?
I believe I know they've been there longer than the commercial properties, because I flipped through our historic aerials and there was no change on that parcel. So at least 10 years.
And then for the mixed-use neighborhood commercial, is there a minimum lot size required? There's not. So potentially, I'm wondering, could the applicant subdivide this lot as long as they meet other setbacks and parking and things of that nature?
Conceivably. Okay. Yeah, that hasn't been discussed at all.
And then on the staff report in your presentation, you talk about limited commercial uses that potentially could work in the MUN zone district. Do you have that list, or can we talk about that?
Sure.
On the potential possible uses and more importantly, maybe the uses that would not be allowed?
So there's 4 mixed-use zone districts, and they get progressively more permissive. And so when we say limited commercial, mixed-use neighborhood has the least amount of permitted uses. So we're broken up into different categories. So for example, any type of residential use is permitted in MUN. That would include single-family, duplex, live-work, multifamily. And then the next category, public, civic, or institutional. So for example, you could have a community building, a library, an art gallery, but we would never permit a hospital or bigger use. Other public uses that are permitted include parks, churches, public uses or buildings, schools. Schools are permitted in any zone district. Commercial services and retail is our next category. And so there's a lot of similarities in zone districts. For example, banks, eating establishments are permitted. Car washes are not permitted. Daycares are permitted. A drive-through or drive-up is classified as a conditional use in all mixed-use zone districts because we're trying to get away from auto-oriented uses. Same with the motor fueling station. Vehicle sales is not permitted. Outdoor storage is not permitted. Let's see. Personal services are permitted, so that would include, for example, a nail salon or a hair salon. Trying to find some other contrasts. Retail sales are permitted, but not for any tenant that would have 60,000 or more square feet, which I don't think would even fit on this lot. and they're pretty broad categories. Offices are permitted, however, office warehouse is not permitted. Outdoor storage I mentioned is not permitted. Restricted light commercial is not permitted. Those would all be permitted or conditional in other mixed-use zone districts. Is that
And in
have
terms of
any-
industrial uses, are any industrial uses allowed?
no?
Okay. That does help me. Thank you. Follow up, Commissioner Matthews?
Yes, at least when you're discussing those uses, the Granger property that's across the street from this lot, under mixed-use neighborhood, that Granger property or that Granger use would not be allowed on that lot, would it?
I'm not familiar enough with the inside. If it's just offices, then it would be permitted.
I think there's some warehouse associated with
If
it.
there's warehousing and sort of the trucks and traffic that are associated with that, then it would not be permitted. That's correct.
It's a wholesale retail. I mean, they have to warehouse inventory there, but
Yeah.
from personal experience, I can tell you there's a lot of just-in-time warehousing going on there.
So
It comes right
wholesale,
in.
since you mentioned that word, is considered a conditional use, and likely because we'd be looking at how many trucks are coming, when, and where. Wholesale, conditional, office warehouse, not permitted.
Any other questions for staff initially? Thank you for your presentation. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yep.
Okay, great. Please come up to the podium and state your name and address, and then any additional items that you'd like to present to us, and we'll be happy to hear them.
Hello, my name is Matthew Rock, and I am applying for the mixed-use zone.
I'm sorry, can you state your address, please?
Our address is 10300 West 65th Avenue in Arvada.
Thank you.
Would you like me to state why we're asking for the mix? Okay.
Sure.
We've been working with this property for a number of years, and we, being in a residence area ourselves, wanted to have a low impact, area for this little area here, and so we thought that mixed use would be good through this area here to combine with the commercial and the one to the north of it there, and the restricted commercial. So it kind of flows in between there, that we can bring residences in and have some limited use as far as perhaps they mentioned a hairdresser, artist, gift shop, florist, candle shop, these kind of, an insurance shop, these sort of things there down below. This type of thing has become very popular throughout our area. Bomar, over off of Wadsworth and Alameda, has tried it and has been very successful for that area there. And that's probably, a little bit larger area, but the same type of thought, applies in the respect that bringing people in there that can live, in the home there, and work, their particular area, even a particular accountant, these sort of things. And would be wonderful to have something like that in the neighborhood there. And nice little area there. They got a nice little green belt there, on lunch break, to take a jog on lunch break and kind of go right back to work. I think our society is really coming to this point to where we have a lot of home uses, and people want to obviously follow the law, and they want to be able to have their business at home today. So many businesses coming about today that have, at-home use. We don't want to drive to work anymore, and we want to maybe drive to a particular occasion but not to work anymore. And so this is becoming something very popular in our society today, and it's going to become a little bit more and more prevalent. So that's part of the reason why we had that there. Anybody that has a home-based job, would be able to work there and live there without any type of travel. But it's nice because there's a lot of commercial around there as well. There's some residential around there, so we wanted some low impact there as well. And it's got a beautiful view, and we've been really looking forward to this. So thank you for your considerations.
Great, thank you. If you just stay there for a moment in case any of the commissioners have any questions for you, okay? Commissioner Ohm, any questions? Okay. Commissioner Duran? Commissioner Brinkman?
So I had asked the staff, and you may know better, there's a big swath of dirt there where it looks like people are either turning around or parking trucks or doing something on that property. What's going on?
Since it's vacant and there's obviously a school next to it, I think that there is some parking there. As you can see, it's a dead end, so maybe people come in and turn around. I don't personally use it for a turnaround or anything. However, the only thing that I can think is that people use it to park once in a while, and perhaps the school uses it a little bit to park and that kind of thing there. I cannot give you an accurate answer on that.
That's
as
fine.
to the reason why that's gravel.
That's fine. I just thought you might know. When you purchased the property in 1998, did you inquire about the floodplain?
At that point in time, we were informed that it was above the floodplain. As you mentioned, the topographical view, from what I understood, it is actually 25 feet above the floodplain. And I don't know that any of the other neighbors and or businesses, we could check with the other neighbors and or businesses right through that area and see if they have flood insurance. I don't believe that they do, where that would be, it would coincide. If the neighbors had flood insurance, then we would probably need that, but I don't believe, they've not mentioned that they have flood insurance and that sort of thing. So
Okay.
I believe it's above the floodplain. We can check into that, but that is my understanding to this point.
And then just for community, being a good neighbor, when besides the neighborhood meeting that you attended, were you had you met your neighbors before? Had you the neighbors to the north, or had you?
I know the neighbor to the north, the Johnson Construction. The neighbor to the west is Murphy, and I've had some association with them, yes.
Okay. Okay.
The Parks Division, we've, kind of their employees there, kind of thing there. So, having not lived there,
Right.
it would be really hard to do that on a regular basis.
Right. I agree. I just wanted to know how much you knew about the neighborhood and such. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Matthews? Okay. No more questions. I do have one question for you. The legal description for this property is Lot 1, Block 1 of the Rock subdivision. Are you the one in the same Mr. Rock that platted this property?
I am.
Okay. So before it was multiple lots and you just want to consolidate it into one larger? Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay. Approximately when was that done?
I believe the document that you have there reads the second portion was 2003. You can look through this. This does state it on there. It was quite refreshing to read this, but
Can I just add, there weren't two developable lots. There was a east-west diagonal line creating a small sliver on the southern portion of the lot, essentially where the ditch is now located, and so it was consolidated to make one developable lot, because before it was one you could use and one you really couldn't use, so they were consolidated.
That clarifies that. Thank you. Mr. Rock, we have no more questions at this time. We may call you up later on, but thank you. So at this time, we will allow any of the other members of the public to come forward and speak either in favor or in opposition to this request. And so if you do come forward, we don't have a sign-in sheet, so anyone's welcome to come. And if you just come up to the podium, state your name and address, and then we'll be glad to hear any comments you have.
Do I sign?
You don't have to sign.
Okay. Excuse me. My name's Greg Boom. I actually own 2 pieces of property here in the neighborhood. I own 4200 Xenon Street, which is right next to the Parks Division, and I own 4225 Vivian Street, which is basically directly east of that. So I have two properties there. Kind of just some quick notes. You'd mentioned something about a trailhead going through maybe his property. There actually is a trail area that goes by the Parks Division that we've got horses, and so we can ride our horses there and along their fence. You can't go down to the creek. The bank is way too steep, and it's got concrete and rocks and stuff like that. Then from there, you'd have to either go east and go across the bridge to get over to the rest of it, or go back west to the pass over by the Youngsfield, and then you can get through there to get to the parks. So there's no way to get across the river. We can't even take our horses down through there. So, but there already is an existing trail that the Parks Department has, and they work with. One thing that was brought up was a pile of dirt in the middle of the property. I know where that dirt came from. There was a ditch running through there, and Mr. Rock decided he wanted to cover the ditch and put in some culvert, so that way he could relocate the ditch to where he wanted to locate it so he could build on the property. They didn't get any permission from any of the people in the ditch or anything and just decided to do this. Well, it flooded the property. We have ditch rights. We water our fields for our horses to graze out of that ditch. So they turned off the ditch for about 3 or 4 months while they resolved the situation. He ended up having to take it all back out, redig it up, and put it back where it originally was. There is a ditch, and I don't think I can see it on this plan here, that does cut through the property that would have to be addressed if there's going to be any type of building on here. Ditch has been there for a long time. Should be the Slater Moody ditch, if I'm correct. Should be. So that's basically what that is. And you're right, people do turn around down there. We've had a lot of increase in traffic in the area because we've unfortunately been dealing with this in our neighborhood for a long time and been trying to fight this type of thing because we end up having a diesel place going down at the end of the street which had provisions for not driving down our street and driving past our residents and stuff, which never happens. They always drive the trucks up and down the street. So I do think that does get used right now as a big turnaround place. And that's why you see that dirt there. The mixed use, I mean, that's neat and all, but bottom line, it's a commercial type thing. We've got residents, we got agricultural, we have chickens, horses, we even have pigs down our street. I mean, it was an agricultural area, single family residences. We want to keep it that way. I mean, we don't want to see commercial come in. It's been slowly eating away our neighborhood and munching into us, and we're really getting frustrated with it. We've tried to stop this. I was at the meeting way back, I think it was 5-6 years ago, and I said no. I was at this last meeting. I said no. I'm at this meeting, I'm going to say no. We have all this commercial stuff trying to ease into our neighborhood, and it changes our property values for what people are looking for in our neighborhood. They're looking for agricultural, they're looking for large lots, they're looking for places they can put horses, a nice house, garages, stuff like that, and not be stuck with all this commercial stuff here, like what they're proposing. What I think he's proposing, and I'm not saying this for sure, but at the last meeting he wanted to put, I believe, like a 3 or 4 unit structure that had businesses in it with another level above it that had apartments on top of it. So the person could live in the apartment and go downstairs and work and then go back up to their apartment. So I think we're definitely talking at least a 2-story building from what I understand. And then, of course, a large building with traffic. If he's talking like a nail salon, a candle shop or whatever, obviously we're going to have a lot of vehicles down through there. Have a tremendous more amount of traffic, which that road doesn't seem to handle traffic very well. It dumps out on the Youngsfield, and it's hard to get back and forth. And then if you go down to the other end of the street on 44th, there's provisions to make a turn to the right, but I don't think you can really make a turn to the left, and there's a lot of traffic issues there. I think if there was another commercial piece, you'd have to redesign some roads or lights or something to make it accessible, because it just will not handle anymore. It's already overflowed with the end of the street with the diesel place. The Parks Department, I have the property next to the Parks Department. We share the same fence. I work with them. Matter of fact, they helped me put up a 400-foot fence on my part of the property so we could work together as far as them. They're great people, really nice. It is very low use. There's only a few people that work there. They usually work in the front house. They don't have a lot of equipment in and out. They basically have maybe 2 to 3 trucks. They kind of leave in the morning, go out for most of the day. They'll come back in the afternoon. We rarely see anybody there or any high impact use. There's the trucks I'm talking about are like a Chevy pickup truck, a standard, 3/4 ton regular truck, not semis, not dump trucks. They don't have any of that type of equipment here at this facility. They do store some park benches. Sometimes when they chip branches, they'll put a big pile of chipped branches there to use as mulch for the rest of the stuff. So it's not a lot of use. There's not people going in and out all day long. Every once in a while I'll see somebody on a Saturday, wave to them, they wave back, and then they're gone for the rest of the day. It's not a high impact, high use type of Parks Department, like a commercial type thing. And they've been there I've been in the neighborhood for over 20 years, and they were there before me. So you'll find a lot of the people in the neighborhood have been there for 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 years. We like the place. We don't want to move. We don't want things to change. What I'm hoping is that they end up doing something with like maybe even a duplex or a single family home. They can rent it out. I don't want to see any type of commercial stuff, more congestion on the street and degrading the property values, changing the neighborhood from what it is. We want to keep what we've got. So it's just unfortunate we have to deal with this, but it is what it is. So, if you have any questions for me or
Commissioner Brinkman, question?
How much traffic has the Granger Express brought in? When I was there, I saw quite a bit of in and out.
I'm not there typically throughout the whole day.
Okay.
So it has brought in quite a bit, and they fought that hard. I wasn't involved in that when that took place, and that was a big battle, and we lost. We always seem to end up losing. The school does bring in quite a bit of traffic because of a certain time coming in, certain time leaving. The Granger, I wouldn't know how to judge like the amount of traffic, but it definitely does add to the neighborhood for as far as traffic is concerned.
Okay. And I didn't notice, if you could help me, I didn't notice signs on Xenon restricting trucks or the weight of trucks or anything like that. Are there signs coming off of? Okay. Have you has the neighborhood asked for that?
It does. What happened was with the diesel place, and this is a different category subject. With the diesel place at the end of the street, they promised not to run diesel trucks down our street as letting them to go into the thing. And so, well, they do it all the time. They test drive them and run through. So it didn't happen what was supposed to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for explaining. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. Next. Take your time.
First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for trying to put me at ease earlier, but I'm just a little bit old, and I have to go to my notes, and I'm sorry about that too. But I'm very disappointed that we don't have a bigger show from the people on our street. This is a 2-block from 44th to 42nd. Strictly all agriculture, mostly acres, you know. We raised horses and chickens and, like he said, everything else. But the reason we didn't, I went around and talked to them, and they said, why should we go? Every time we've gone, they haven't listened to us. So I just want to give you a background of how much I know about that street.
But, ma'am, before I'm sorry to interrupt, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
And she told me to do that when I first got here. My name is Levon Beckfeld, and I live at 4210 Zenon Street. The last name is Beckfeld. I also own property at 4365 Zenon Street. My parents moved out there in 1940, and I was just probably tiny. And it was a gravel road, a small gravel road. It was owned by a Mr. Hill. He owned all the property and ended up selling it off. And Mr. Hill liked the people there, and we loved him, and everything else was real nice. In 1946, I got married, and my husband and I bought our house at 4210 Zenon Street, and we've lived there ever since. We've had horses, chickens, rabbits, you name, and kids. In 1969, Wheat Ridge became a city, and that's when our problems started. Mr. Williamson lived down towards 42nd or 44th, and all he did for many years was sharpen blades for people, saw blades and lawnmowers. Didn't bother anybody. None of the neighbors complained, but Wheat Ridge told him they couldn't do that anymore, and they would not give him any permit. So we lost some good neighbors that had been there for years. I have to admit I'm the oldest one down there, but that goes with problems. The dog kennel across the street from my house, I want to tell you about that. There was a lady that lived there, very pleasant. She lost her husband. And her daughter came over and said, is there any way that you guys would not oppose my mother taking in dogs and taking care of them in the garage? We had a meeting, and we all said, fine, but we do not want this to be a dog kennel if she moves. The city of Wheat Ridge said, fine, we'll put that provision in. She moved, and another kennel came in. We've had 3 owners since then that lived in that kennel. I went to the city of Wheat Ridge and asked them for a copy of the minutes. They couldn't find them. We don't have them, and they were not available. Then the business that you've been talking about on West 44th came in, and everybody was opposed to it. They all came to the meeting, and I mean all of our street and most of them over on Vivian Street. They went to the meeting. Wheat Ridge didn't care. So now we have fast traffic going up and down our street, and there's trucks going, as Mr. Boone stated, going up there all the time. And the lights at 44th and Youngfield, you can turn, that was put in there. People don't like to go there because of the length of time it takes. And there's people that I know that work at King Soopers that have told me they drive down our street to avoid those lights. And we have asked for speed limits, and we were told we were going to get them, but we never ever got them. I didn't. I want to admit I did not. And because I don't like the cold here, I winter in Arizona now. I have for about 20 years. My husband, who is not here now to verify what I'm saying, he had sickness, and he couldn't stand the weather here, It was cold, and so we went down there in the wintertime. He got along pretty good for a long time. I'm sorry. It just seems like the city just doesn't care about the neighbors. you know. They've let businesses in, they've let the kennels in. Now, there's nothing wrong with the gentleman that runs the kennel next to across the street. They do everything they can to keep the dogs quiet, they keep the place clean and everything. I'm not complaining about anything about that. The park, those people are wonderful. Everybody is so nice, and as Greg said, they're there in the morning, they come home, come in and eat lunch, they leave again. They don't bother anybody. They don't have extensive traffic going in and out. And am I boring you? Because I got a few more notes. Sorry about that. But if you've got any questions, you know what the people feel, including myself. The city of Wheat Ridge don't care about us. These businesses and people that don't live on our street, they don't vote for the people that run the city. We do. The voters, the property owners, and we just would like a little consideration. And I guess I've said enough. But I'll answer any questions if you've got them.
Any questions, Commissioner Brinkman?
So I'm presuming that since you own the property just to the north of the previous speaker, do you have a ditch running through your property too?
We did have. We don't now. I still pay. I have rights.
You have rights.
Yeah.
Are you second tier rights? I'm assuming you're second tier.
I pay water rights all the time because I have an inch of irrigation water. Well, in fact, last year my daughter took my garden away from me. She said it was too much. So I don't use but I pay for it every year.
Okay.
But I do not use it.
And do you recall, is it the Slater Moody ditch? It is?
Well, there's two of them. One's the Moody and one's the Slater Moody, and I have to be honest, I mix them
That's
up.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah, but it does. It comes from the big Coors thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for your presentation.
And I thank you so much. And Mr. Odom, thank you. You did ease my little bit.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Cindy Beckfield, her daughter, that took her garden away from her. I live down at 4365 Xenon, and I want to talk about what I call the monstrosity, is the diesel emission place down at the end of 44th. Number one, they put way too big of a building in there. You have people, there's no parking spots. Their parking area is not big enough for the people that work there, let alone for the customers. They park out on the street. There's many times I've gone walking or came home from someplace where there's one lane traffic. Two cars won't fit through the street because they've got all these people parking on the street. You have approved it about a year ago, and it was supposed to be, from what I remember, a 5-bay. It's an 8-bay now. They were supposed to leave the doors shut. The doors are open, and the poor guy that lives right next to it is getting dieseled out, migraine headaches, everything. It's killing him. And we've complained to Wheat Ridge about it with no dismay. Nothing's happened. I can go in my bed, in my bedroom, in my kitchen. I smell the diesel from these open doors, but nothing has came out of it. But my main thing is the parking. If this thing goes through on 42nd, is it going to be the same thing? Is it going to be too big of a building with no parking and another people parking on the street and making another one-way street? That's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you so much for your presentation. Next.
Hi. My name is Catherine Murphy, and I live at 12 12700 West 42nd Avenue. I live right next door to this piece of property on the west side. My husband would be here tonight, but he is in Houston, so I'm sorry about that, because he's a much better speaker than I am, and he doesn't turn red. So, anyway, there's a couple of things that I can fill you in on. Somebody asked about signs for weight restrictions on the street. Uh-oh. And he doesn't have earrings that fall off. There used to be one, from what I understand, when at some point in time when they repaved the road, they took the sign down and it never went back up. As far as speed limit signs go, we asked a police officer at one time, and he said, I would recommend you don't ask for speed limit signs because people automatically think they can go 5 to 10 miles over that speed limit. And we already have people that speed. My husband's family originally his great-grandmother bought that property. It's the full acre. It was the house next door to us at 12710, and then our property. She bought that from Sam Hill and built her own 2 houses on it, and then deeded part of it to her daughter, who was my husband's grandmother. And in 2001, Grandma was already gone, and Grandpa Murphy went to Montrose to a nursing home, and we bought the house from him because we had our horses over there. And he deeded us the piece in the back where our garage is. It is a separate piece of property, so our property is L-shaped. It goes all the way back, of which our house is on, and then there's a piece in the back that is a totally separate piece of property that doesn't have a mortgage on it. But it's there. And so we have the 3/4 of an acre. We have 2 wells we have water rights. I believe we also have mineral rights. We have been encroached upon, all I can say, because this is my little bit of heaven. I did get to retire in April, so now I do see exactly how much traffic goes through this area. That little street, that little narrow 42nd Avenue and Zenham cannot handle the traffic it gets now. I don't know what's going to happen when something else goes in there. Mr. Rock does not live in our neighborhood. He told you that he doesn't live in our neighborhood. It is hard for me to believe that he really even cares about what goes on in our neighborhood. But that's my personal opinion. There is quite a bit of commercial in there because the couple of others that weren't talked about was All About Paws, Autumn Gold, which is a landscaping business on Zenham. The Granger has no less than 5 trucks a day, and they're big trucks. There's also UPS and Federal Express. There's trash trucks that go to the school and trash trucks that go to the 3 buildings. Mr. Johnston doesn't have much traffic at all. And the radio, I don't remember exactly what that business is called. Radio Source. They're actually the ones that own that business, that whole piece of property now. And they don't have much. The people that live right next door to me, it's 12710, they were going to be here tonight, but they have a 7-year-old boy that they didn't have anybody that could watch him, and they didn't think it was appropriate to bring him, so they're not here. They are opposed to this. I think I saw a group of folks, and it may have been you folks, walking down the street recently. It looked like maybe they were checking out the area. I don't know. Or maybe it was just business people out for a stroll. I don't know. But that piece of property looks like it's trashed. It is not. And the reason why they have all those trees that have suckered up and they have allowed them to grow is because of the lights. Granger has their light on until 9 o'clock at night, and then it comes on again at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It shines in everybody's windows. We have made it so that we live, everything we do is either on the east side of our house or in the back of our property because of all the traffic, all the lights, and the noise that's in the front. Unfortunately, I know you can't do anything about it, but there is a huge freeway light up there on the overpass. It is the only one that has 6 lights in it, and it lights up everybody's backyard. We relish our neighborhood. We have something that is a little bit different than most people have. I haven't lived there, but well, I moved out there when David and I got married, so it was in 1989. He's lived there all his life. These folks have lived there all their lives. I have listened to Grandpa talk about this is the ditch and this is what you have to do, and you have to make sure that you keep track of all this stuff. If you don't, someone will come along and take it away from you. I believe progress in the city of Wheat Ridge and people that do not live in our neighborhood are coming in and taking this away from us. We're sorry that other people don't have this. I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for my husband's grandfather being so generous. This means a lot to us down there. This isn't just taking away our homes. This is taking away our way of life. I don't want any more lights in my front window. I don't want to have to plant trees that will grow fast to keep all the lights and the privacy. That is just not what it's about. And we have asked Mr. Rock, why don't you build your house there? I don't want to. He thinks that there's a great view there. What view? What view is there? I don't know what that view is. I live on the back of my property, so I don't have to look at the cement buildings. The road got graded and paved because up until about 10 years ago, that was the last dirt road in Wheat Ridge. It got graded the wrong way. Instead of grading it so that the water would go down through the new gutters, it goes down my side of the street where there aren't any gutters, and it floods the front of my property. The people that go to the school, the parents, a lot of them are extremely inconsiderate. They park on our property. They've ruined my grass. They park on my next door neighbor's property where he's had to put up posts and chains to keep them off. And when I asked somebody not to park on our property, all I could get was, "You're a racist." And I thought, wow, that's what today has come to. What is mine is no longer mine. And I really don't want to have to share it with them. I work hard for this. I keep my property in good condition. So do these folks. And we work hard. LaVon is out there. She shouldn't be out mowing her grass, but she is, because she takes pride in how it's kept up. People that come into the neighborhood, they just look at it as it's something, wow, this is kind of weird down in here. I've had more than one person say that. That's kind of an unknown entity down in there. Well, that's because we wanted to keep that way. I don't know why everybody has to put cement and asphalt on every bit of empty property that there is. I don't get it. Now, as far as what that lot is used for, Mr. Rock and the Murphys haven't always gotten along and seen eye to eye. But the one thing I have always told Matthew Rock is that we watch out for your property. And we do. I have run off XL Energy. I have run off a fencing company that was dumping liquid on his property. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And whatever my feelings are for Mr. Rock, it is still wrong. And I will look out for anybody that's in the neighborhood. And I would want them to do the same thing for me. The other night, I had to turn my TV up because there was somebody in an avalanche out there popping wheelies, just going round and round and round really fast in his lot. It ruins the lot. And it tells other people that it's okay to do it. I wish he'd put up a fence so people wouldn't go through there. They dump on the property. I'm really nervous. I just don't want any more down there. It's terrible. People at the school, they park. They can't, to traffic, they have to wait. Somebody has to wait till somebody else goes if there's oncoming traffic. People let their kids out on the street side. If there's a car coming, somebody's going to get hit. They really are. There's no school signs put up. I understand that's Jefferson County. There's not much the city can do about it. But I was hoping that maybe they could do something about parking on the street instead of in their parking lot, because Head Start made a really nice parking lot. Parents don't want to use it. They want to use our property. They want to park on a narrow street. And that's probably about all I have to say. Did I miss anything? And no, as far as the property being on a floodplain, I believe that is a 500-year floodplain, and a corner of our back piece of property was in the floodplain, and it got taken out. So we no longer have flood insurance. So I believe that has been redone. So I just want to make sure because I have a habit of going and sitting down and going, oh, wish I had said that. I guess that's it. My husband is against this. The only thing that he did say is if this does go through, hold his feet to the fire. Because what we feel, our neighborhood feels, and it may not be true, he wants this rezoned so he can sell the property, because he hasn't been able to sell it as it's zoned right now, which would mean that we will be dealing with somebody totally different, a new developer, and it'll already be rezoned, and we won't have much say as to what goes in there. We will have no ability to fight this. And we have as much right to fight as he has to sell. So, David did say that he would just like it if somebody could hold the person that wants it rezoned, their feet to the fire, and make them go through. Follow through with what the city asks of the person. Because there's things that have gone through. We can't do anything about the noise from the dog kennel. They have toned it down, so I'm thankful for that. I have Pella windows and doors in my house, and I could hear the dogs through those windows and doors. It was awful. The diesel guys, they sat in that meeting and said, we promise we won't go down your street. Right. At 44th and Xenon, there is a no left turn sign. So they either have to turn right, go down, turn around, and come back, or the easiest thing for them to do is to go down our street. And they don't drive the speed limit, of which is not posted. Most people, there's a lot of people that don't drive the speed limit through there. There's a lot of traffic, guys, a lot. This is going to increase it. Now, I will tell you that the traffic on weekends and after the school is closed really is minimal. It really is. But if you put a business in there, like a hair salon, they're going to be open 7 days a week. Or a gift shop. They're going to be open at least 6 days a week. There's going to be an increased traffic. I don't think your street's going to handle it. You're going to be doing some big-time street maintenance. So, thank you for listening to my rambling.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Anyone else?
My name is Marnie Boom. My husband and I own 4200 Xenon, as well as 4225 Vivian Street that backs up. We are very concerned about the mixed use on this property. Another thing that hasn't been brought up very much is that I do believe almost all of us are on wells in this area. And there is a lot of impact when they start building these other buildings on our wells, and so we're very concerned about the potential impact of more construction and more traffic and stuff on our wells also. The traffic down there is very bad, and it's not just the Granger traffic. It is also the kennel traffic, and we're right across the street from the kennel. They park all over our grass. I know that the Head Start people, in the mornings it's very difficult to get through there with the kids and stuff like that. So you do have a major traffic problem. It is difficult to get out of 42nd onto Youngsfield, both directions, because it is difficult to see there, as well as down on 44th Avenue. You do have a right turn only with that light there. It is a blind corner. You have trouble getting in and out of there. I also have concerns with the fact that we're zoned agricultural. We have large animals down there. It's very difficult to go up and down, be anywhere safely on that street with the amount of traffic that is going through there, with horses as well as even just walking as a person. I've seen a lot of impact, especially since the diesel company has come in. There's a lot more traffic with diesel trucks going up and down, and it is not wide enough to accommodate dual direction traffic, especially if you have any walkers. We do have a lot of mixed area. We understand that. It's not what we prefer. We would prefer to keep our neighborhood as a neighborhood. We do have a lot of old-time residents. That is a very quiet little neighborhood. It is a very extended life neighborhood, meaning that a lot of those neighbors are there for a very long time. My husband and I have been there for 20 years. We don't want to see it change. We don't want to see it ruined by a lot of commercial coming in. We do realize that there's going to be improvements in different areas. I'm not sure that this is the correct area to have that type of improvement. A house would be adequate there. That would be great. But commercial use, I think that would be a bad idea for this street, especially with the size of the street and as much residential people as you have down there. I think you really need to consider. And if you think it's great, come live there. If you'd like our view and everything, great. Come on in and live there. But don't send somebody else in to ruin what we have.
Thank you so much. Anyone else speak in favor or against this request? Seeing none, does any of the commissioners have any follow-up questions based on the testimony for either staff or the applicant that they'd like to add? Commissioner Ohm?
I have some questions for Lauren. The first one is a photometric plan required during the planning process for the MUN? And if so, is there a limit to the amount of light that spills onto adjacent properties?
Photometric is required for any new development that typically has sort of building mounted or outdoor freestanding lights, so parking lot light. And the code on exterior lighting is that you're supposed to be shielded so you're not illuminating beyond your property boundaries.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just confirm an auto repair shop? I've heard a lot of complaints about the diesel is not
Sure.
one of the permitted uses for
That's
mixed-use
correct.
neighborhood.
Not an auto repair shop. Let me pull out the code. I should mention that the performance-wise on the northern end of the street, which was approved by City Council, y'all didn't hear that case, is an active code enforcement case right now. So staff has responded. It's in the police department's hands right now. So repair, rental, and servicing of automobiles, no outdoor storage, is listed as a conditional use in all mixed-use zone districts except for interstate. And so that means it would need a conditional use permit before anybody could develop it as that.
Okay. Is on-street parking permitted with MUN, mixed-use neighborhood?
So when we're looking at a new development, we require, depending on the use, we'll require a trip generation study or a traffic impact study to determine to estimate how many new vehicles would be drawn to the site. We also look at the use and use parking ratios to determine how many on-street parking spaces are required. We don't typically count, I said that backwards, to determine how many off-street parking spaces are required. We don't typically count on-street parking spaces, in particular in streets where it wouldn't be safe or allowed. So I would suspect that our Public Works Department would say, because we're so close to the corner, and for example, the driveway into the Parks District is right into that corner, that we wouldn't be encouraging on-street parking. It is a public street, so the model traffic code would say if there's not a no parking sign, anybody can park there. So we've heard the neighbors' complaints, and that's something we can certainly ask about, if it would be signed no parking. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Commissioner Brinkman.
When you were talking to the applicant or approaching all the different agencies, did you approach the ditch company?
Sure. So there's several ditches in this neighborhood, and in my records, the ditch that's on this particular lot is the Lee and Baugh, which may be incorrect. Before my time, before the consolidation, there had been a ditch that traversed the site, and there was an issue with it being relocated without going through the proper procedure. It has been resolved, and they have been aware of our conversations with the applicant to rezone the property, and they would certainly be included in any sort of referral for development. The ditch has been relocated to the southern and eastern property line, so that's what that shadow line is in the aerials.
So, but the ditch company is aware of the conversation going on? But they chose not to provide any feedback on this?
Correct, yeah. So essentially with an application like this, we send out to agencies and say, properties proposed to rezone from agriculture to mixed-use neighborhood. We don't have a proposed use or a proposed site plan. So there's just not a lot to respond to, except most people say, we have no concerns, we have no comments at this time. We may have future comments when a site plan is proposed. So there haven't been anything specific from the ditch company.
And I'm interested in the fact that the Public Works Department said that there were no concerns with traffic. Were they aware of the?
They can't state any concerns without knowing what type of use, right? Because if it's a single-family home that develops even under the mixed-use zoning, there's no concerns versus if it's a commercial use. But they don't tend to speculate if they're going to have traffic concerns in the future. So, again, when we have a proposed use, if under the mixed-use zoning, if the mixed-use zoning was approved, we'd have a new pre-application meeting with an applicant. We'd go through a site plan review process. We'd require a trip study if it was basically anything other than a single or two-family home. And that's sort of when we generate comments about how we need to accommodate the traffic or if we can accommodate that traffic.
Okay, thank you. And then last question, just for the audience and the people here. After we hear this case, the next step is?
Sure. So the next step is going to be a public hearing. We'll repeat this exact same process at City Council. So it's very similar format, staff presentation, applicant discussion, opportunity for public input. And then Council will ultimately be the deciding votes. Planning Commission will make a recommendation of either approval or denial, and City Council will hear that recommendation and then make their own decision.
And is this scheduled?
It is scheduled for January. It was in the letter that we sent. Let me pull it out real quick. Thank you. January 14th.
So it's scheduled for January 14th. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Buckman?
Just a couple of questions. Was there any conversation about zoning, either subdividing into two lots and zoning both of them R1 or doing an R2 zoning to maybe take advantage of that creek front, the creek frontage appeal for pure residential, and to maybe take into consideration the agricultural and residential relationship that we've got on Xenon.
We can't take first part of your question. We can't subdivide this lot under the current A1 zoning. Minimum lot size in agricultural one is 1 acre, and we're at 1.1, so it can't get any smaller under A1. We haven't considered or discussed any residential rezoning. The applicant alluded to having worked with the city sort of over the last several years before my time, like when that subdivision consolidation came through. I don't know if there was any conversation then, but with this most recent application, we haven't discussed a rezone to any of our straight residential zone districts.
But theoretically, this could have been a rezoning case for R1 or R2, and then to be followed by a subdivision after that.
Sure, I mean that's probably something we could entertain.
Okay. Looking
at those lot width and lot size standards under different zone districts.
Yeah. Just in terms of the MUN requirements on parking, we discussed the parking capabilities or parking standards in terms of numbers of spaces already, but in terms of placement, can you refresh my memory again on MUN? Is there any standards in place in terms of placement? I seem to recall some of the mixed-use stuff were encouraging parking behind the structure and doing a building to the lot line.
That's correct. So we'd be encouraging the building being closer to the street, more articulated architecture than what's out there. So, for example, that Granger building is just all white, one material, straight. That wouldn't be permitted. So we'd have essentially a more articulated building closer to the street, and then parking either on the side if it's wide enough or behind. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, in MUN you can't park between the building and the street. That's not allowed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? I guess that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. So with that, I'll close the public. You haven't spoken?
My name is Sandy Cusack, and I live in Oklahoma, but I'm the daughter of the Beckfelds, and I don't have a lot to add because I have been away from home for 20 years. I was raised in the country, which was Xenon. My father used to talk of the Indians, you know, as he shut the gate to come, but I moved out in the country. But a couple of things I just wanted to leave you with. I know you guys are challenged with your mission state to do what's better for Wheat Ridge and increase, you know, the dollars and all of that stuff. But you also have an obligation to these people that have been there and for 60, 65 years and are trying to preserve what they have. And you can't mix the two. I mean, you guys do your job and it passes on to somebody else. And what happens is nobody follows up or makes sure that what's supposed to be happening happens. And the other thing I'd like to say to this gentleman is I wonder if you would still be doing this if your parents lived on this neighborhood and had lived there all their life too. Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, just for the record, even though you live out of state, can you please tell us your address in Oklahoma?
15901 South Westminster Road, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Great. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to speak? Hasn't spoke?
I'll take that one. A legal protest can get filed up to the city council hearing, so you have not. Mm-hmm. And that'll go through the clerk's office, I believe. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Okay. Okay. All right. Public hearing is closed. Discussion among the commissioners?
I've got just something to think about. That with the frontage right there on the creek, considering this rural, I understand it's transitional. I understand that the interstate's right there. I understand the Granger is what any resident would be looking at, past their property line. But considering the fact that there's this historical use that's very rural and agricultural in nature, and considering even more importantly than that, the location, I'm really wondering if maybe a residential type of rezoning, if we're going to consider rezoning, might be more appropriate as opposed to mixed use. I see the point for mixed use, but my concern with this particular recommendation from staff in the application is just that maybe we're introducing a bit too much, the potential for a bit too much commercial or retail development in an area, and particularly a lot which might be better suited for purely residential. That's just my comment.
Just to sort of piggyback on that, I feel like the intention here is to have some sort of a buffer. Is it on? But I don't feel like increasing the commercial here is going to make that a buffer. It seems to be really encouraging more commercial, and so it seems to be intensifying it, and I don't feel like that's providing a buffer purpose for this neighborhood, based on everything we've heard tonight.
Any other comments or discussion? Commissioner Owen?
It seems like everyone that from the public that has come up for a statement has obviously stated traffic. That's the number one concern. Traffic. Is there any way that we could, if we were considering mixed-use neighborhood, that we could place restrictions on the types of use that are in that?
Staff can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is planning commissions can suggest conditions, including potential limitations on uses as part of the motion. Is that correct?
You're correct that you can impose conditions. I frankly don't know the answer as far as whether you can essentially adjust the zoning. But you can recommend it, and we can take it to council, and then they can determine if that's appropriate or not.
In the past, we have done that. However, what happens is that's recorded on the case, and then that can get lost, and it's hard to manage. So it has been done. The staff has frowned upon it, just because it's hard to track 20, 30 years later. But I have seen it done in the past, but it's...
Yeah, that's really the intent of the plan development, because that gets recorded, and then we know this is a different zoning. Whereas when we just, if somebody calls and you say, what's my zoning? And we say, oh, it's mixed use. And then we don't have an asterisk usually on our zoning map that says you should be looking here. So Commissioner Brinkman's point is well stated. It's difficult to manage. So you can put conditions
legally
on
it may be done. It just may be hard to administer long term, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brinkman?
So, for the purposes of, first of all, I want to thank the neighborhood for coming out. Very important that you come out. Continue to come out in a small group, big group, it doesn't matter. Next step, as you heard, January 14th, City Council. So do not think this is your last step, okay, no matter what the decision is. So for the sake of City Council, I'm looking at the zone change criteria in my decision. Number one, the change of zone promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the community and will not result in a significant adverse effect on the surrounding area. I think the change of zone will. Significant is a pretty strong term, but I'm looking at that along with, so on that case, I did a pro and con here, and that's leaning on my con. Number two, adequate infrastructure facilities are available to serve the types of uses allowed by the change of zone, or the applicant will upgrade and provide such where they do not exist or are under capacity. I don't see the applicant widening this street. This is a local street. It's having trouble right now handling the traffic, and so that again sits on the con side for me. The change of zone is in conformance or will bring the property into conformance. It's moot. That kind of lays in the middle. There's no conformance issue here. We did review the plans, the envisioned Wheat Ridge, etc., and in that sense, it does fall in line. So that sort of lies on the pro side. The existing zone classification currently recorded is an error. Nope, no error. So it's moot. The change of character in the area has occurred or is occurring to such a degree that it is in the public interest, hence public interest, to encourage redevelopment of the area or to recognize the changing character of the area. So, the area of the character of the area has changed. I'm not sure it's in the public interest, and so that's enough said without more comment. And then the proposed rezoning is necessary in order to provide for a community need that was not anticipated. This is not related, so that's moot as well. So because of that, I am going to vote no.
Thank you for those comments. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes. As I look at this, I am terribly conflicted because when I was doing my due diligence and going through that neighborhood, there's not a lot that can be done about the traffic generated by that Head Start program because Jefferson County puts their schools wherever they darn well please. But that commercial property and the dog kennel never should have been allowed there. And so this is a difficult thing where the property owner, Mr. Rock, probably doesn't have a good use for that property unless it's developed commercial. But I also have pride of ownership of those commercial or the neighborhood commercial development standards and how the property or it has to be developed out to the street. And I always envisioned that the mixed use would be on an arterial or at the very least a neighborhood collector street. But this is not a neighborhood, it doesn't meet either of those criteria. And I don't think mixed use development standards are appropriate for this lot. And I also will be voting no.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Buckman?
I just had one clarification I wanted to make. I wanted to make it very clear that I don't disagree with the applicant, the applicant or staff recommending development of this property. I just think that a more appropriate development would be much more residential in nature than commercial for Commissioner Brinkman and Commissioner Matthews' reasons as previously stated.
Any other discussion? I will entertain a motion then.
I move to recommend denial of case number WZ-12-08, a request for approval of the zone change from agricultural 1 to mixed-use neighborhood for the property located at 12600 West 42nd Avenue for the following reasons. And I may need a little help with this, crafting this. It does not, the majority of this does not follow the criteria set. What do I call those criteria? In the zone change criteria, more commercial further destroys the integrity of the neighborhood. And number 3, it does not seem to create a buffer for the neighborhood, but it seems to encourage more commercial conversion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on that particular motion?
May I clarify one thing?
Mm-hmm.
So a yes vote is for denial.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Denial.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
So with that, then, I will call for a vote.
Six in favor of denial, and Chair Timms voting no.
So this case will go then before City Council in January, so we encourage y'all to show up for that as well. And that recommendation will be part of the City Council record. So thank y'all for your attendance. Commissioner Buckman, if you'd go and get Commissioner Gildner, we will finish the meeting. Okay. as soon as Commissioner Gildner returns, we will conclude the meeting and obtain any other business.
If a legal protest is filed, what is the voting requirement for city council? So that's 6 votes to approve.
Thank you for that clarification.
I don't think my mic was on.
What I miss?
Pulled my badge out and showed everybody here.
Now that Commissioner Gildner has returned, we will take other items. Does staff have any additional items for tonight?
The only other item is housekeeping. As you know, Kathy Field had moved on to Public Works about a month ago, and we have filled her vacancy. You will be getting emails hopefully soon. Kim Wagner is starting on Monday as our new Community Development Department admin. So I've been trying to fill Kathy's shoes in her absence, but Kim will be calling now for quorums and sending emails.
Great. Thank you for the update. Any commission business? Commissioner?
I just have a comment about the Ridge at 38th.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Ridge at 38th event that was on September.
Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if anybody attended that, but I thought everybody that helped and volunteered, that was very successful. I attended it. I attended it with my family in the evening. I see that as a real positive thing for Wheat Ridge. I've spoken to a number of people, some council members about it, and I wish it continued success. Wheat Ridge is going in the right direction. Thank you.
I agree with you. I can't hear it. A lot of neighbors enjoyed it. Lots of kids, families out there. So hopefully we'll do it again. A once a year type of event.
So I just want to thank staff and the city for the recognition yesterday, the party. Yeah, thank you. That was very nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Commission business?
Do we have any meetings coming up? Any canceled meetings?
There is a meeting scheduled for November 1st. There may be a meeting scheduled for November 15th. We have an application pending. Those are the next two, I believe.
I believe we have one on November
1st.
Right, for a study session presentation too. From
Live Well. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Commissioner Gildner has been passing out a little flyer here, right?
Yeah. That's not what I wanted to ask, though.
Oh, okay.
I actually have a question. I know that we had a meeting, and it was about, did I talk to you? But I had somebody call me, and they asked if they had to have a permit to put up a fence. And I called, and I thought that when we had that meeting, we passed it there where they did not have to put up a fence.
That's correct. So a fence on a residential...
But they're in the flood zone. So do they need to have...
Well, in a flood zone, you do need a
Okay.
floodplain permit and a building permit. Anywhere else...
And is that for, like, if they were to put up a shed? Because I knew there was a certain part of the shed that had to be... What about concrete?
There's an extra layer of review for any structure. Flat work, I don't believe has that, but we would want to check with Public Works.
Okay, so just have them check. Okay, because I wasn't sure, and I thought that had gone through, but I wasn't.
Yeah, no, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Any other commission business? And I'll call for a motion on adjournment.
Second.
I second.
First and second vote, please.
All approved to adjourn.
Thank you. All right.